The land is our foundation, and Land Synergy is here to solidify and restore. Join us as we connect the dots of land restoration, sustainable practices, and self-sufficiency. It's time to get rooted.
Welcome back to Land Synergy. Welcome back, guys. Excuse me. So today, guys, we're simply going to talk about a foundational element to your homestead and how that can help you. Now, real quick, guys, remember, with Land Synergy, we are talking about restoration, which is essentially the same thing, synergizing the land, but restoring the land, homesteading, and self-sufficiency. But also, so that's not also, but so when we dive down this rabbit hole, these practices are not just something you can do at your homestead. This is, whether you're connected with a business or whether you have a business that's able to project change and understanding through these different elements. Like, if you are stewarding a piece of land and understanding how like these practices correlate. So just remember that, guys. So today we're talking about how to process waste and what we've personally done. So I'm going to start off with composting. As you guys know, pretty much all the food that we eat, any scraps, we cut up any fruit, eggshells, bones, compostable paper. We've been investing in, instead of plastic, like for food paper, like, that you line on your baking sheets. We've been investing in compostable paper. What else? Eggshells. So pretty much anything that can be composted, we compost. We bought a little bin that we fill up, we dump. Then we have the cardboard / paper. We burn this. We have a simple tin, metal tin, and we just burn it. We live out in the woods. I mean, if it's creating a lot of waste, then definitely reevaluate your approach. But for us, we just, probably like once a week, we just burn the cardboard. If that, maybe like every 3 weeks, honestly. It's not even that much. But we have a bin inside the house where we fill that up. And then most of what's left is usually plastic. A couple diapers from Liam. That's our baby. Um, and all that, guys, I'm constantly not wondering, but just aware of how can we minimize even this. Like, the more you can plug in the outputs and create them in the inputs, like the compost. It was the output, the food scraps. It's just going out. But when you can redirect it back inside the homestead, you can exponentially grow. I mean, look at the Earth system. All we got to do is replicate how the Earth naturally works. From the rain, the plants, decaying matter, everything is recycled, transformed. And so with the plastic, as we move forward, we are definitely working to mitigate this. This is definitely something not heavy on my mind, but definitely in the forefront, because it takes up a lot of space and it's not productive. The more we can plug those outputs and turn them into inputs, the better. Looking at the compost, like I showed you guys the other day, well, I took some pictures and we put it on the website. The compost is it's gotten so big that I had to create another one, about a 10 by 10 foot area. And the leaves I created a whole, this is probably like 15 by 15, and it's just leaves from the property that we've stacked up so that we can reuse within the compost. The other day we harvested some cucumbers from one of our plants, and it was we had to snip some of the leaves off, so we just decided to, not even decided, but we put it into the compost. Like, it all goes in the compost, grass clippings, all that. So my question for us is simply this: what outputs do you have on your house? and how can you change those into inputs. Another factor that I am highly aware of and look forward to not fixing, but rather improving, is the water system. So the water system that we use, a lot of the water that goes down the drain and out the house, being able to use that within the property instead of just having it as runoff. So primarily, a lot of the, like, if you're using any chemicals, of course that's what you first need to address. But pretty much everything within the house, I'm working to eliminate, not eliminate, but make it as simple as possible. You know, Jess, my partner, she uses free and clear detergent, and eventually I definitely want to move away from that, but that really works for her, and she's the one who kind of washes all the clothes. So but baking soda and vinegar are huge ones, and then we're also working on that as far as the dish detergent. So addressing those, and when you do, imagine all the water that you use daily that you could be able to re-put into your house. Like, one purpose that I see being able to use is being able to store that water and using it as a cleaning system, because we're on a well system. Like I said, we're out in the wood, we're deep in the woods, we're not near civilization, so to speak. There's no gas stations around us or anything like that. So um, being able to just plug those outputs, and so that water, what comes to mind is like a storage container that you can use to store that water in, and maybe clean stuff around the property. Maybe you need to clean the cars. Maybe you need to even water in the plants, like trees. Like, depending on what it is and how it is, of course you need to make sure it's clean. But you could water the plants. You could water the compost. I mean, God, guys probably use gallons a day of water, and just being able to reuse that, man, that's powerful, man. Just think about how magnifying that is. And then the second one, another output for us was simply would be definitely something around electricity, but um, I'm not too aware at that angle, so we won't dive that down there yet. But the collecting water, like as I'm talking to you, it's raining a little bit, and having a system where we can collect the rainwater. I think that's foundational to a healthy homesteading system as we move forward. Because when you have that water, when you have when you're able to collect the rainwater, you're able to um, first off, the rainwater, it's most of it is clean, because a lot of the the heavy stuff, the things that you don't want in your water, is left down in the dirt when the water's evaporated into the sky. So having a system where you can collect rainwater, foundational. Definitely be aware of that if that's something you look forward to or that you want to step into, because yes, for me, I mean, that's just, I mean, you can't go wrong with that, guys. I mean, water's foundational to your homestead, and I feel like it should be treated as such. And then lastly, another output that I look forward to plugging and converting to an input is waste, as far as the bathroom. So poop and pee. So there's a system. So first off, guys, let me share, because this is, we have to step out of the mindsets that have been presented before us. Now, there's nothing wrong with being aware of, but when you just take everything for face value and that's what it is, without having the mental agility to think for yourself and understand it, you're not going to be able to grow, because you'll be that's like, the people who learned how to fly. If they just took everyone else's experience, they would have never learned how to fly. I'm talking specifically about the Wright brothers. So, okay, back to the point. With There's an example in China, the rural area of China. There is an area that is about, let's just, as an example, it was about, I believe it was about an acre. And to compare this, there's about 50 acres in Texas. That's where the study was done. And the 1 acre in China was able to produce, I think, 3 times more food than the 50 acre. Here's why. First off, the 50 acre source in Texas is using a monoculture approach. There's only inputs that's turning into outputs. What I mean is they're using fertilizers and things they have to buy from the store, and there's no recycling process happening. So they need continual inputs for this to work. Those outputs that's being released, the phosphate, the nutrients, they're all being washed off whatever's not being used by the plants. There's no system in place. It's, your conventional agricultural approach. So the system in China on this 1 acre, it's more rural based. And when we say rural, let's just go with not natural, but I guess you could say less industrialized, more inputs from the source around them. And so the foundational element to China's success in this example is simply that they were using the waste from the humans. They were incorporating it into their system. Now, this is where awareness, understanding, and learning comes into place, because yes, you can get sick from, not treating fecal matter properly. Just putting it in you can't just, you have to be, you have to treat it properly, essentially. And that's what they was doing. And one of those methods, if you're interested, is actually using a carbon base so like an example, the system that I'll be instilling as we move forward on our homestead is a potty where when the fecal matter that goes in, it's a 3-layered composting system, right? So the pee is drained down into a container, and then that's stored into compost, and then the fecal matter is actually it sits on a bed of wood chips and carbon material, like fine carbon material, and so that dries it out, right? It dries it out so that there's no bacteria, because the water, you want to eliminate the water, so this dries it out to where it's just the minerals, etc., and then that's able to break down completely. So you're mitigating a lot of the parasitic, aspects of the poop. And so my whole point, and so we don't get down the rabbit hole, is simply processing it, guys. And that is a huge, think about that. Think about how much you poop and pee. Think about if that could be turned into compost. Guys, inputs to outputs, or outputs, whatever you waste, and being able to turn that into an input. Good God, guys, that is extremely powerful. And I feel like that should be a foundational element to your homestead. Now, you don't have to do this. I mean, just for me, I would like to do that. You could still do it using other elements such as, your plants waste, like composting your food scraps. But if you want to take it to the next level, incorporating that, guys. And look, to conclude today's episode, guys, this comes to mind. These the example of Texas, the source that was used in these agricultural sources, agricultural products, these huge conglomerate corporations are using urea and uric acid, which is essentially, it comes from your urine, right? Which is a powerful nitrogen source for it's a great fertilizer for plants and composting. And so they sell this product to these farmers, when what if the farmers could use the urine and the fecal matter from the cows and reincorporate it back into the homestead? See, but that wouldn't help the corporations, because then the farmers would get to a point where they don't need these foreign sources as inputs. They have inputs being created from the outputs, and you can start to see how magnifying that could be. And so the point simply this with the uric acid is that you pee every day. So I personally, me and we don't have a system for transporting the urine, but sometimes when I'm outside, me and my oldest son, one of the composts, we just pee on it. Now again, this is where understanding and awareness comes from. Anyone who's never heard this before, they might think, what is wrong with him? But again, the uric acid, first off, the urine is completely safe. It doesn't need to be treated. It's already processed by the body. It's almost like filtered blood and excess and water. So I mean, you've probably heard of people drinking the pee. It's completely safe. If you haven't, you should try it. We're not going to dive down that. But that's simply being able to incorporate that. Now, guys, this as we move forward, I have to be real with you guys. I'm not telling you to think or do things as I do, but I will share my authentic experience with you guys. And I will keep it raw and honest. Because there's no point in me getting on this podcast to talk to you if it's not going to be what I'm actually, doing and sharing and learning. So now that that's out the window, I've been doing this for about adding urine to the compost for about a year, about 2 years, I believe. And guys, just look at it from the macro. See, these farmers, these corporations can turn the uric acid and urine into products and then sell it, I guess in a packaged, source. But when you talk about these things in their raw form, people don't see the exponential value. They don't see the like I as an example, I'm looking at some punk wood. Right, this is just extremely decayed wood. It's very punky and soft. Someone sees that, they might not be able to see the value in it, but I look at it, which is why of course I obtained it from a job site that I was doing, and that's going to go into the garden. It's going to go in the ground. I'm going to cover it. I'm going to create a German style garden, which is essentially where you cover the decaying wood with dirt, and then you plant on top of it, and now you have a nutrient source for the plants to grow into. Simple. But you look at that, you can't see it. It's the same with everything around us, guys. So we're going to conclude today's episode with simply this. What outputs can you turn to inputs?